Empty plates and empty pockets. The dismissal notice felt like a slab of granite pressing down on Tom's palm. Downsizing, the paper declared. A bloodless term for "you're expendable." He crushed the memo, shoving it into his jacket. Lily bounced into the kitchen, her sunny yellow slicker a vibrant splash against the overcast day. "Dad, I'm starving." Her voice, a chime of innocence, was a balm he craved, even as it deepened the ache. "On it, kiddo." He pasted on a grin, surveying the meager contents of the refrigerator. Another reheated casserole. He loathed serving it again, but the pantry shelves were getting thin. Empty plates tonight, potentially an empty wallet soon. Later, after Lily was tucked away with her threadbare bear, Tom slumped at the table, the harsh fluorescent light reflecting the worry etched on his face. He distracted her with the tall tale of a squirrel's audacious acorn heist, yet his gut remained clenched. Rent loomed. He fired up his geriatric laptop, the cooling fan buzzing like an angry hornet. Job boards. Entry-level roles. Wages barely above subsistence. A litany of rejection swam before him. His talents, though adequate, lacked distinction. Nothing that shouted urgent hire. Panic began to prickle. Then, a tiny ad, almost invisible at the bottom, Innovatech Solutions, evening cleaning crew wanted. Innovatech. That shimmering skyscraper downtown. A supposed haven for innovation. He'd always viewed it as another universe, a realm for the polished and privileged, not someone like him. He clicked. The requirements were basic, high school diploma, dependable, meticulous. He could manage those. He had to. The pay was modest, but it was a start, a flicker of hope in the gathering shadows. He printed the application, the machine wheezing in protest. Tomorrow, first thing, he completed. Tomorrow, he'd attempt to convince them he was the right fit. He slipped into Lily's bedroom. The gentle glow of the night light bathed her face. She stirred, murmuring softly. He brushed a stray lock from her brow. Back in the kitchen, he quietly scrubbed the dishes, the ceramic clinking in the stillness. Only the steady plink of the dripping faucet, a metronome of their financial instability, broke the silence. He envisioned Lily in the years ahead, perhaps dreaming of university, of a life beyond their modest dwelling. He had to make that future possible. He would. The next morning, Lily was engrossed in coloring a rainbow unicorn. "Daddy," she asked, eyes fixed on her artwork, "do you think unicorns really exist?" Tom smiled gently. "Maybe they do, if you truly believe." "I believe," she declared, her tone resolute. "I believe they live in a land of sweets and rainbows where everyone is happy." Kneeling beside her, he took her hand. "That sounds like a truly wonderful place, Lilybug." He paused, then inquired, "What do you aspire to be when you grow up?" Her face brightened. "An artist, or a unicorn tamer, or maybe both." He chuckled softly. "You can achieve anything you set your heart on, Lily. Anything at all." He squeezed her hand reassuringly. "And I promise to provide every opportunity for you to do just that." He prayed his voice didn't expose the fear chewing at him. He would shield her and empower her to pursue those rainbows, even if it meant wielding a mop and bucket. The image of Innovatech's reflective facade resurfaced in his mind, a beacon of possibility, however humble. He just needed a chance to prove his worth. The shiny building and the intimidating CEO. Tom scrubbed at the scuff on his best shoes, the worn leather stubbornly resisting his efforts. He'd spent the last hour ironing his only decent shirt, a faded blue button-down he usually reserved for parent-teacher conferences. Even though this was just for a janitorial position, it felt like so much more. Securing this job meant getting Sarah into that new after-school program, the one with the art classes she'd been dreaming about. He smoothed his hair in the cracked bathroom mirror, a nervous tic he couldn't quite shake. The Innovatech building loomed, a sleek tower of glass and steel that seemed to pierce the clouds. Tom swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. He felt a pang of self-consciousness as he approached the entrance, acutely aware of his worn shoes and the faint scent of laundry detergent clinging to his clothes. The lobby was a cavernous space of polished concrete and minimalist furniture. A single, enormous abstract sculpture dominated the room, its sharp angles a stark contrast to the organic curves of the potted plants strategically placed around the perimeter. He approached the reception desk, feeling like an intruder in an art gallery. "Tom Baker, here for an interview?" he mumbled to the woman behind the desk, who was impeccably dressed in a sharp black suit. Her expression remained neutral as she efficiently typed on her keyboard. "Miss Sterling will see you now. Take the elevator to the 40th floor." The elevator doors whispered open, revealing a mirrored interior and soft, ambient music. As he ascended, Tom tried to calm his racing heart, reminding himself that he was capable and hardworking. He just needed to convince them of that. The 40th floor was even more impressive than the lobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city sprawling beneath a hazy afternoon sky. A secretary, equally polished as the one downstairs, directed him to a large oak door. "Mr. Baker, Miss Sterling is ready for you." He took a deep breath and knocked. "Come in," a voice called, crisp and professional. Eleanor Sterling sat behind a massive desk, a landscape of papers and sleek technology. She was even more striking in person, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes sharp and intelligent. She wore a tailored gray suit that accentuated her slender frame. No warmth softened her gaze, it was all business. "Mr. Baker," she said, her voice cool and measured. "Please have a seat." She gestured to a chair facing her desk. "Your resume is unconventional, to say the least, for a position at Innovatech." She steepled her fingers, studying him. "Why Innovatech, Mr. Baker? And why this position?" "Honesty and little drawings." Eleanor Sterling steepled her fingers, the fluorescent lights of the Innovatech conference room glinting off her severe silver rings. "So, Mr. Baker," she said, her voice a precise monotone, "your resume shows a significant gap in employment. Almost 5 years. Can you elaborate?" Tom swallowed, the knot in his throat tightening. He'd known this was coming. He'd practiced the explanation 100 times in the cracked bathroom mirror. "Yes, Miss Sterling. My daughter's mother left. Unexpectedly. Lily was just a baby. Someone needed to be there. And that someone was you?" Miss Sterling's eyebrows arched, a barely perceptible movement that nonetheless made Tom feel like a bug pinned under glass. He nodded, his gaze fixed on a barely perceptible scuff mark on the polished table. "There wasn't anyone else. Daycare was unaffordable. So I stayed home. I learned to braid hair, bake cookies, and differentiate between a dinosaur and a dump truck." He attempted a smile, but it felt brittle like thin ice about to crack. Miss Sterling remained impassive. "Admirable, Mr. Baker. But this position requires reliability, dedication. Can you assure me that these domestic responsibilities won't interfere with your ability to perform the job?" He drew a shaky breath. "Miss Sterling, being a father is the most important job I'll ever have. It's taught me patience, resilience, and how to function on minimal sleep. I won't let you down." He hoped the sincerity in his voice translated, but her expression remained unreadable. Just then, the door creaked open. A small head, crowned with a halo of unruly brown curls, peeked inside. "Daddy?" Tom's heart lurched. He hadn't heard Lily leave the waiting room. "Lily, honey, I told you to stay put." Lily shuffled in, clutching a crumpled piece of paper. Her lower lip trembled slightly. I wanted to show the lady." Miss Sterling's gaze softened, a flicker of something akin to warmth in her eyes. "Show me what, dear?" Lily, emboldened, toddled over to Miss Sterling and presented the drawing. It was a riot of crayon colors, a lopsided house with a purple roof, a stick figure with wild hair, presumably Tom, and a sun so bright it threatened to engulf the whole page. In the corner, scrawled in wobbly letters, was Miss Stellan. "It's you, Miss Stellan," Lily announced proudly, pointing a chubby finger at the drawing. "Daddy said you were very important. So I drew you a happy house. So you won't be sad." Miss Sterling picked up the drawing, her fingers tracing the uneven lines. A faint smile played on her lips. "This is lovely, Lily." "Thank you." Lily beamed. "Daddy helps me draw. He's good at dinosaurs. He roars real loud." She demonstrated, letting out a surprisingly ferocious roar for such a small person. Tom groaned inwardly. This wasn't how he'd envisioned this going. "He also makes the best pancakes," Lily continued, oblivious to his mortification. "And he reads me stories with funny voices. He's a good daddy." She looked up at Tom, her eyes filled with unwavering adoration. Miss Sterling met Tom's gaze. There was a new quality in her eyes, something beyond professional assessment. "Yes, Mr. Baker," she said softly, "I believe you are. A daycare dream." A shaft of sunlight, splintering into a miniature rainbow on the wall, had lured Lily from her father's side. She now stood mesmerized by a potted fern in the corner, her small fingers delicately exploring the lace work of its leaves, her brow furrowed in concentration. Tom squirmed in his seat. He'd been stumbling through explanations for his career hiatus, attempting to frame stay-at-home dad as a marketable asset. Miss Sterling's visage remained a polished, inscrutable mask. He feared she perceived him as simply another statistic, a casualty of corporate belt-tightening. "She's fond of plants," he blurted, the ensuing silence thick with apprehension. Finally, Miss Sterling spoke, her attention fixed on Lily, not Tom. "She possesses a remarkable eye for detail. I haven't witnessed anyone appreciate Beatrice, this Fern, with such thoroughness, perhaps ever. A fleeting spark of amusement danced in her eyes. Her gaze then drifted around the office, taking in the severe angles of the modern furniture, the sterile gleam of glass surfaces, the utter absence of anything even remotely child-oriented. Mr. Baker, she began, turning back to him, Innovatech isn't exactly renowned for its welcoming atmosphere for children, is it? Tom flinched, bracing for a tactful rejection. Regrettably, no. And yet, Ms. Sterling pressed on, leaning forward, a surprising number of our employees are young, embarking on parenthood. There have been murmurs, preliminary inquiries concerning the possibility of on-site childcare. She tented her fingers. The logistics, the legal ramifications, they've invariably seemed prohibitive. But observing Lily, it underscores a genuine requirement. Tom regarded her, utterly taken aback. Where was she headed with this? Mr. Baker, I'm prepared to offer you the janitorial role. It lacks glamour, admittedly, but it's dependable and we prize diligence. She paused, her gaze unwavering. However, I also have another proposal. A more ambitious undertaking, if you will. He swallowed, his throat suddenly parched. An undertaking. I want your assistance in establishing a daycare facility here at Innovatech. Tom's jaw dropped. He felt a dizzying rush, as though caught in a whirlwind. A daycare center? He lacked the slightest inkling about managing such an endeavor. He could scarcely prevent his own existence, let alone a roomful of rambunctious youngsters, from descending into complete pandemonium. I lack the relevant background. He stammered. Ms. Sterling dismissed his concerns with a wave. You possess the experience of raising Lily, and a palpable, demonstrable devotion to her well-being. We can engage qualified early childhood educators. My need is for someone with empathy. Someone who comprehends a child's needs, a working parent's anxieties. Someone capable of cultivating a secure, nurturing space. She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that softened her severe features. And, quite frankly, someone equipped to handle the inevitable messes. The burden of his obligations, the relentless struggle, the nagging terror of inadequacy, seemed to lighten if only fractionally. He glanced at Lily, now attempting to braid a dandelion stem into Beatrice's foliage. A daycare. An audacious concept. But perhaps, just perhaps, audacious enough to succeed. He inhaled deeply. Miss Sterling, he replied, his voice regaining its strength, I accept. New beginnings at Innovatech. The squeak of Tom's mop echoed in the otherwise silent hallway. He attacked a stubborn coffee stain near cubicle 3B, his brow furrowed in concentration. He wasn't just cleaning, he was proving himself. Each swipe of the mop was a silent apology for the gap in his resume, a testament to his work ethic. He arrived before sunrise and stayed late, ensuring every surface gleamed. He even started organizing the supply closet, alphabetizing the cleaning fluids and neatly stacking the paper towels. He caught the eye of several Innovatech employees. A programmer, perpetually bleary-eyed, had started leaving him energy drinks with a grateful nod. The receptionist, a woman named Brenda, always had a kind word and a stash of Lily's favorite gummy bears hidden in her drawer. Miss Sterling, however, remained an enigma. She acknowledged his work with a curt nod but never lingered. Until Tuesday. He was polishing the chrome elevator doors when she approached. Baker, she said, her voice clipped. My office. Noon. His stomach clenched. Had he done something wrong? At noon, he stood nervously in her expansive office, sunlight glinting off the glass cityscape behind her. The daycare, she began, swirling the amber liquid in her glass. I've been thinking. She gestured to a chair. Sit. He sat, perching on the edge. I have some preliminary sketches of the proposed space, she continued, sliding a folder across the massive mahogany desk. But I want your input. What do you think children actually need? Tom swallowed. This was it. His chance. He spent the next hour outlining his vision. Not just a holding pen for kids, but a place where they could explore, learn, and create. He described Lily's love for finger painting, her fascination with building blocks, her endless questions about the world around her. He envisioned a sensory table filled with sand and water, a reading nook overflowing with colorful books, and a dedicated art corner. Staffing? Ms. Sterling asked, scribbling notes on a legal pad. Experienced childcare professionals, of course, Tom replied, but also volunteers. Parents who want to contribute, retired teachers looking for a purpose. It builds a community. Ms. Sterling paused, her pen hovering over the paper. A flicker of something akin to warmth crossed her face. Community, she repeated softly. Meanwhile, Lily was making Innovatech her own personal playground. She'd befriended the IT guy Mark, who let her decorate his monitor with stickers. She'd helped Brenda sort the mail, meticulously placing each envelope in its designated slot. She even managed to convince the security guard, a gruff man named Stan, to let her wear his hat for a few minutes. She was drawing a picture of a unicorn with rainbow wings in the break room when she overheard two employees talking. "Miss Sterling is actually smiling more," one whispered, "since Baker and his daughter started." Lily beamed, adding a glittery horn to her unicorn. She knew her dad was doing a good job. She could feel it in the air, thick with the scent of lemon cleaner and possibility. She wandered towards Miss Sterling's office. The door was slightly ajar, and she could hear her dad's voice, animated, excited. She pushed it open, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Daddy," she announced, holding up her drawing, "Uni wants to live in the daycare." Tom's face flushed. Miss Sterling, however, chuckled, a genuine, surprising sound. "Well then," she said, taking the drawing. "We'll have to make sure Uni has a very special place to live, won't we?" She pinned the drawing to the corkboard behind her desk, next to the architectural plans. Tom watched, a wave of gratitude washing over him. This was more than the jealous rival. The mingled scents of lavender and gingerbread drifted from Innovatech's daycare, a welcome departure from the building's usual stale, air-conditioned aroma. Eleanor Sterling, Innovatech's CEO, watched Tom Baker gently guiding a hesitant toddler toward a block tower. His voice, a soothing murmur, contrasted with the surprising tenderness in his calloused hands as he steadied the child's unsteady construction. Eleanor's initial reservations about Tom's unorthodox hiring had long since dissipated. The daycare thrived. Across the board, productivity had soared. Staff were demonstrably more content, sharper, and calmer. It was inspired, and Tom, despite his humble ambitions, was its clear architect. Across the street, from Omnicorp's Obsidian Pinnacle, Reginald Thistlewick, CEO and notorious control freak, scowled. Weeks he'd spent observing Innovatech's ascendance through high-powered binoculars. The sight of parents dropping off their offspring with smiles, the cheerful sounds of children at play riding the breeze, it scratched at him like nails on slate. His fist slammed onto the mahogany, sending tremors through a crystal decanter of aged liquor he'd been sipping since before noon. "Absurd," he roared, the word booming in his expansive office. That charity case is outperforming me." Omnicorp's employee care attempt was a cheerless, skeletal operation tucked away in the basement, run by a Mrs. Higgins whose chief qualification seemed to be a deep-seated dislike of children. It was a fiasco. Employees avoided it, opting for costly private care or, worse still, abandoning ship for companies with better perks. Thistlewick pivoted in his stiff leather chair, tension radiating from him. He needed to undermine Innovatech to snuff out this infuriating spark that illuminated Omnicorp's shortcomings. He coveted their ideas, their Baker. Snatching the phone, his eyes narrowed to slits. "Barnes," he snarled into the receiver, his tone low and menacing. "And bring the yacht manifest. We're going fishing. For talent." A plan, ugly and manipulative, began to take shape in his mind. He would tempt them with inflated salaries, false promises of career advancement, and if needed, dabble in old-fashioned industrial sabotage. He'd drain Innovatech of its lifeblood, one valuable employee at a time. And Baker, well, everyone had a vulnerability. A cruel smile tugged at Thistlewick's lips. He was accustomed to getting his way. A clever plan. The whispers started subtly during lunch breaks and in hushed corners of the office. Omnicorp recruiters, sleek and smelling faintly of expensive cologne, had begun circling Innovatech, dangling lucrative offers like shimmering lures. Higher salaries, stock options, promises of rapid advancement, the usual temptations. Tom noticed the subtle shift in atmosphere, a nervous energy buzzing beneath the surface of the usual cheerful chaos. Even Martha, the perpetually optimistic receptionist, seemed a little distracted, her smile a touch strained. He saw it happen firsthand when David, one of the junior programmers, a kid barely out of college, was cornered by a sharply dressed woman near the coffee machine. Tom couldn't hear the specifics, but he saw the gleam in David's eyes, the almost imperceptible nod. Later that day, David's workstation sat empty. That evening, Tom voiced his concerns to Eleanor. "They're poaching our talent, Eleanor. Systematically. And I think they're after more than just personnel. I saw a guy lurking near the server room yesterday pretending to be lost. He didn't have an Innovatech badge." Eleanor's jaw tightened. "Thistlewick," she spat, the name dripping with venom. "He's escalating. We need to protect our intellectual property, Tom. Everything. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Tom sat at the kitchen table staring at the blueprints for Innovateka's latest innovation, a biodegradable polymer that could revolutionize packaging. The formula was the company's crown jewel. He had to find a way to safeguard it. Lily padded into the kitchen, her stuffed giraffe clutched tightly. "Can't sleep, Daddy," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. She climbed onto his lap, her small body warm against him. Seeing the blueprints, she pointed a chubby finger. "What's that, Daddy?" He explained it simply about making things that wouldn't hurt the planet. She listened intently, then wrinkled her nose. "But what if the bad guys steal it?" Tom sighed. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Lily was quiet for a moment, then her eyes lit up. "Why don't we hide it? Like a treasure. We could make a secret code. And draw a map." Tom chuckled, but as he looked at Lily's earnest face, an idea sparked. A crazy, brilliant idea. He remembered the daycare children's unbridled creativity, their chaotic energy, their absolute lack of guile. "Lily," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face, "you just might have saved Innovatek." The next morning, Tom gathered the daycare kids. He explained in simple terms that some mean people were trying to steal Innovateka's special ideas. He proposed a game. They would create a super-secret code, a code so complex and childlike that no adult could possibly decipher it. They would then hide parts of the formula within their drawings, their paintings, their Lego creations. Little hands eagerly snatched crayons and paintbrushes. A cacophony of joyful noise filled the room as they embarked on their mission. Numbers were replaced with animal sounds, chemical symbols transformed into fantastical creatures, molecular structures disguised as sprawling cityscapes. Lily, her tongue poking out in concentration, drew a vibrant rainbow, meticulously coloring each band with a slightly altered shade, each representing a different element. Tom felt a surge of hope. It was a long shot, a gamble. But he knew one thing: Reginald Thistlewick and his corporate spies would never see it coming. They were looking for sophisticated encryption, complex algorithms. They would never think to look in the heart of a child's drawing. Company picnic confessions. The modified OmniCorp project proposal, subtly doctored by Tom, landed on Reginald Thistlewick's desk precisely as planned. It was bait, pure and simple, laced with deliberately inflated projections and impossible deadlines. Tom, monitoring network traffic from his makeshift command center in the daycare, a corner surprisingly shielded from prying eyes, watched as Thistlewick took it. Hook, line, and sinker. Thistlewick, predictably eager to impress his OmniCorp handlers, immediately forwarded the document. Tom copied the transmission data, timestamping it and archiving it for Miss Sterling. He allowed the altered proposal to travel all the way to OmniCorp headquarters. Let them make their move. The axe fell quickly. OmniCorp, believing Innovatek was on the verge of a breakthrough, launched a hostile takeover bid, citing the wildly optimistic figures in the proposal. Miss Sterling, armed with Tom's evidence, was ready. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Miss Sterling, her voice a glacial calm, summoned Thistlewick to her office. Tom, listening in from his daycare hideout, heard the accusation laid bare. "Reginald," she said, her voice echoing through the speaker, "your loyalty seems to lie elsewhere. Perhaps with a company more accommodating to industrial espionage." Thistlewick sputtered, denying everything, but Miss Sterling cut him off with the decisive presentation of the network logs and the original, unaltered proposal. His face drained of color, resembling a fish plucked from ice water. Security escorted him out within minutes. The Innovatech company picnic crackled with a celebratory atmosphere. The air, thick with the aroma of grilled burgers and the sugary sweetness of cotton candy, buzzed with laughter and relief. Tom watched the children from the daycare chase bubbles across the lawn, their joyous shrieks a stark contrast to the tension of the past weeks. He felt a deep satisfaction knowing his plan worked and Innovatech was secure for now. Miss Sterling approached, a nervous energy radiating from her usually composed demeanor. She held a half-eaten hot dog in one hand, her knuckles white around the paper wrapper. "Tom," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, I need to ask you something. Something important." He met her gaze, his heart suddenly hammering against his ribs. She swallowed hard, the vibrant colors of the picnic blurring around them. "You've shown incredible loyalty, Tom. Resourcefulness. You believe in Innovatech, in what we're building here. And I've come to deeply appreciate you." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "Tom Baker, would you do me the honor? Would you marry me?" The hot dog trembled precariously in her hand. "A happy family." Tom stared at Eleanor, the city lights painting streaks across her determined face. The hum of Innovatech's security system was the only sound for what felt like an eternity. He thought of Lily, her small hand trusting in his, her crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator back in their cramped apartment. Could he really do this? He met Eleanor's gaze, seeing not just a CEO, but a woman who genuinely cared about Lily, about him. A woman who had seen something in him worth taking a chance on. The realization hit him with the force of a summer thunderstorm. He loved her. He loved her sharp wit, her unwavering dedication, the way her eyes softened when Lily was around. Eleanor, he began, his voice rough with emotion. This is unexpected. But seeing you with Lily, seeing how happy you've made her, how you've made us. I can't imagine saying no. I love you, Eleanor. I truly do. A slow smile spread across Eleanor's face, erasing the executive mask she often wore. It was a smile that reached her eyes, crinkling the corners in a way Tom found utterly captivating. She stepped closer, her hand reaching out to cup his cheek. I love you too, Tom, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. And Lily. She's everything. He pulled her into a tight embrace, burying his face in her hair. The scent of her perfume, a subtle blend of jasmine and something indefinably Eleanor, filled his senses. Let's go tell Lily, he murmured. They found Lily asleep on the beanbag chair in the corner of the daycare, a half-finished drawing clutched in her hand. Eleanor gently scooped her up, cradling her in her arms. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Miss Sterling, she mumbled, her voice still thick with sleep. Hey, sleepyhead, Eleanor said softly. We have something to tell you. Tom knelt beside them, taking Lily's small hand in his. Lilybug, he said, Miss Sterling and I, we're going to be a family. A real family. Lily blinked, her eyes widening. A slow smile spread across her face, mirroring Eleanor's from moments before. Without a word, she reached out and wrapped her arms around both of them, squeezing them tightly. A happy sigh escaped her lips. The embrace solidified their bond, a silent promise of love and commitment. In that moment, surrounded by the soft glow of the daycare's night lights, they were a family. An unconventional family, perhaps, but a family nonetheless. Weeks later, Innovatech felt different. Laughter echoed through the hallways, not just from the daycare, but from employees who seemed lighter, more engaged. The employee morale surveys had skyrocketed. Tom, now officially a consultant, continued to implement his innovative ideas with Eleanor's unwavering support. But the biggest change was at home. Their home. Eleanor had moved into Tom's apartment building, taking the penthouse suite and filling it not with stark modern furniture, but with Lily's artwork and cozy, inviting spaces. Tom often found them curled up on the oversized sofa, reading stories or watching Lily's favorite cartoons. The aroma of Eleanor's experimental baking filled the air. One evening, Tom walked into the living room to find Eleanor and Lily building a fort out of blankets and pillows. Lily squealed with delight as he crawled inside, joining their makeshift haven. He looked at Eleanor, her eyes shining with happiness, and knew he had made the right decision. They were a family, a happy family, and their story was just beginning.